And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to The Bald Truth. Phone number 888-659-3727. Great to be here. Another Sunday night talking about what we always talk about, hair loss. You know, interesting news just out of New York. Not interesting, I mean, pretty compelling actually, that a terrorist suspect, a guy actually caught with a bomb up in Washington Heights, was apprehended. I guess the police were on his trail for a long time. They're just kind of watching and waiting, and they apprehended him before he was obviously able to leave his home with the homemade bomb. I just caught the story now. I'm looking at it right now, so I'm just kind of reading what's going on. You guys can call in if you have more information on it. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. 888-659-3727. Want to say hi to all of our new viewers who've actually probably came over from watching our live feed this Friday on YouTube. I have to tell you guys, I want to thank all of you for making that event really what it turned out to be. We had a tremendous turnout, and honestly, I haven't received these many emails or so many emails after a live event probably ever. So we obviously hit a really big chord with hair loss sufferers around the world, and I want to thank everyone who participated. I think Dr. Alan Bauman may be calling in, and of course Joe from Staten Island, who took the time out of his busy afternoon to call in, and of course my co-host Andrew Zarian. It was a great success, and of course Kevin Nalts was kind enough to allow us to into his personal space, his world. You know, I mean, it's a very intimate situation for most guys to have a hair transplant. And he allowed us to go in for the second time to not only film it, but to interact with him while he was basically under the knife, so to speak. Phone number 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. Sorry if I seem a little preoccupied, but this is pretty compelling news that I'm seeing right in front of me. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But if you're new to the broadcast, don't know who I am or why I'm here, I'm a consumer advocate for men and women suffering with hair loss. I am the author of The Bald Truth and the Truth About Women's Hair Loss, and I'm the founder of the American Hair Loss Association and the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. Seems like a lot, and it is, but the truth is, I began my hair loss journey more than 20 years ago, dealing with exactly what you guys are dealing with. 2/3 of you by the age of 35 will suffer with some degree of hair loss. 40% of hair loss sufferers are women. This is a silent epidemic of biblical proportions, and I say that every week because it is. And it's sad that, society still doesn't allow us to talk about it. And that's why the $3.5 billion a year hair loss industry has been successful in being able to, in my view, take advantage of vulnerable, uninformed hair loss sufferers, desperate people looking for help. It's a $3.5 billion a year industry, like I said, and like 99% of the products that claim to stop, prevent, or treat hair loss don't work. So it's pretty scary out there. But the good news is there's real hope. There is help. I always tell people, look, if you're equipped to deal with hair loss, the best way to deal with it is just to move on with your life. Either cut your hair really short or shave your head and just move on. But if you're not equipped to deal with it like I wasn't, and I'm still not really, you have to really educate yourself, empower yourself with the information that we provide here at The Bald Truth. I'm not here to sell you anything. There's no products or services being promoted on this broadcast. Only 2 FDA-approved products that we recommend, and a handful of hair transplant surgeons, and that's it. That's it. You're not going to see what we recommend here on The Bald Truth on an infomercial late night. You're not going to find it on some guy's website who's selling an ebook saying that they stopped their hair loss, and this is how you do it. You know, if the product or service doesn't carry the American Hair Loss Association seal, or if it's a drug that's not FDA approved, or a treatment, I should say, that's not FDA approved, my advice is to avoid it. 888-659-3727. Let's go to the phones. And, you know, both these guys actually called in around the same time, so I don't know if this is Joe. We'll see. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, I actually garnered the energy today to actually sit and watch a movie called Back to the Future, where Michael J. Fox's character has the opportunity to interact with his past self. I wish that was only me. I say to myself, don't do anything about your hair loss. Live your life as a bald man, cut your hair short, make a lot of money, the world would have been yours. How sad. I'm very sad.
My name is
Joe from Staten Island.
My name is excuse me. My name is
Would you like me to reiterate it?
My name is
Have you heard it? Excuse me.
My name is
Joe from Staten Island.
Joe, that was a little depressing, but you gave it a go. I appreciate that.
Well, what else is new? Yeah, first of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to wish all my brothers and sisters in the hair loss community happy Thanksgiving. I know it's going to be tough for us sufferers out there, but I believe by next Thanksgiving we may have something to be thankful for. And also, I'd like to take this opportunity to wish Johnny from Ohio a happy 48th birthday on Thursday.
Yeah, I think is his birthday on Thursday?
You said it was Thanksgiving.
Wow, I know it's close to Thanksgiving normally, but Thanksgiving is on a different day every year, just about. So
yes, that's a good observation, Spencer.
Well, thank you. So yeah, Johnny, happy birthday, man! Next Sunday is his birthday. Wow, should have a little birthday party here at the Bald Truth for Johnny. Too bad I've never seen him, and I don't really know who he is. But you know, we can figure something out. So what's up, Joe?
Yes. Yeah, first of all, I want to congratulate you on your broadcast with you and your co-host Andrew Zerian and Dr. Alan Bauman. It was very informative, and I really enjoyed it.
I'm glad.
On the screen, but unfortunately, as you know, I had to leave the show early because my son had to take our naps.
Yeah, you had to take your afternoon nap. I get it.
I apologize, to you for that. And also, Paul, I hope I didn't get Dr. Bauman a little annoyed. He seemed slightly annoyed when I asked him a certain question. But
I don't think you got him annoyed. You annoyed me, not him.
Well, I annoyed you. I'm sorry. And you really do look tired, Spencer. I'm just kidding around. I have my wrong glasses on. Let me reiterate that.
Say it again. Say it in English.
You didn't really look tired. I was just kidding around. You look absolutely great.
Dude, I appreciate that, and I'm just busting your balls. I know, like, for whatever reason, if I bust your balls, it really affects you. It shouldn't. We're all friends here.
Well, I really care about you, man. You to me, I consider you synonymous with Jesus Christ, with God, with Yahweh.
God. All right.
President of the United States. I mean, there's no one. You're the king of the hair loss sufferers, so anything you say does have an effect on me.
Well, listen, and you're the real king of the sufferers in my view. So whatever you say has an effect on me. How's that?
Well, I really appreciate that, and I want to thank you for at the opening of your program for mentioning my name. I really, really appreciate that.
All right. So what's up?
Anything? Unfortunately,
you bring anything to the table tonight?
Well, how about a turkey? I hate to disappoint all the millions of listeners now, but I have no news to bring to the table. You believe it?
Well, look, it's a holiday. I mean, I had a very, very busy week myself, so there's not a lot that I have as far as new news to bring to the table. But I do think that what we pulled off on Friday was monumental. I really do. I'm not just, I got to pat Andrew Zerian on the back for his incredible involvement and the fact that he was able to just get that, get those video feeds in there and, pump them out to YouTube without any issue. and he produced the whole thing. So I got to give him his props. He's really good at what he does.
Yes, I do. I am dubbing Andrew, an honorable, honorable hair loss sufferer. Even though he's not a hair loss sufferer, don't panic, Andrew.
He may not be honorable for long. According to Dr. Bauman, he may not be honorable for long. Honorary.
Well, I'm just telling Andrew again, let me reiterate this. Don't take the DX test, man.
No, I don't know. I think Dr. Bauman might be on the line. I'm not sure. He did say he was going to call in, but we have our lines lit, and I think he was the second caller. But I'm gonna see if this is him. All right, Joe?
Okay, thank you, Spencer.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, Spencer. It's Dr. B.
Hey, Dr. B. How are you, man?
I'm doing great.
That was a good guess.
Great.
I'm glad I picked up the right line. So listen, I want to, you heard me, talk about the YouTube event at the start of the show. And I got to tell you, I was looking back at the tape, and it really went off without a hitch. You guys were great. Your camera guys did an incredible job. Nalts, as usual, was very entertaining. You were great. I just think it was probably the best event we've ever done.
Well, it was exciting to be a part of it. I have to tell you, I'm still kind of recovering from it.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
It wore me out.
Yeah, it was tough. Yeah, well, I know it was a little stressful. I mean, I got a couple of your voicemails, and again, next time any situation happens, call the house phone. Okay, because I don't get great cell coverage here.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
We muddled our way through our own YouTube stream in the early morning, and some people were upset that all they could do is hear some of the audio and then some of the video. But when you guys took over the show, obviously at 1 o'clock and opened the phone lines, I mean, it was just awesome. I mean, it was great.
Yeah, no, I really had a good time, and it was great. I mean, Nalts' wife was there, and I'm telling you, the amount of email that we've received has been. I mean, it's overwhelming, actually. It really is. I mean, we had some really strong events. The last event that we had with Dr. Harris, we got our first, main feature on Ustream, which was big. Right. It was definitely big. But now we're featured on Ustream and on YouTube, and of course on Stickam and all of our other resources. So I mean, it was huge. Too bad I can't get any numbers from Nalts as far as who was viewing us, how many people are viewing us on YouTube.
Yeah, well, I think he's at the YouTube Royal Wedding this weekend in Tampa. So I think once he cools down from that, he'll be able to.
What the hell is that?
Number.
What's the YouTube Royal Wedding? Who?
Yeah, I'm not so clear on all the details, honestly, but a lot of YouTubers are heading over there to Tampa to participate.
That's got to be a very interesting show, interesting wedding.
Yeah, well, he says whenever the YouTubers get together, it's always an interesting time.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So tell me, you had some really great equipment in there, and I know that you said Discovery Channel was there?
Well, we have just two really great people. We had David Waters, right, who actually recontacted me again through Facebook, and we just kind of hooked up just recently, again after many years. And he does stuff for CNN. He does stuff for NASA. I don't know if you may have seen some of these viral clips on YouTube where there's a camera taped to an eagle's wing or something like that, and they send it around the skyline of Manhattan.
That's very cool. Yeah.
Okay, that's his video.
Wow.
He does a lot of really, really cool stuff for CNN for many, many years, and then Discovery and NASA more recently. And he made a phone call, and we got some amazing equipment. I mean, this is the first time I think that we had more expensive camera equipment than surgical equipment for a neograft surgery.
Yeah.
And that's kind of unusual.
Yeah. It was, what was impressive about it was, sometimes it's really difficult for these streaming sites, and even if you have FME and other resources, to really pick up the high quality of that type of a camera, the high definition. And we were actually running that feed through Skype. But I got to tell you, it was pretty crystal. I was really impressed. I mean, however, I don't know if they used a TriCaster or what, but it was good. They really did a great job.
You're already talking over my head on all this broadcasting stuff, right, broadcasting equipment. But I know that the quality of the glass is what the cameraman's looking for, and
right,
that we had some pretty heavy duty cameras in there, and then of course the switcher that was used. They had it running on my large screen TV. I got a 40, 50 inch flat panel that usually is running like something like Pirates of the Caribbean,
right.
for the patient.
Right.
But they had like six different camera angles set up there so they could flip-flop back and forth. So, but I think it's the the quality of the lens, and it certainly wasn't my upload streaming rate, because we were like barely limping along there in terms of a standard definition signal.
Yeah. I mean, but it was still pretty good. I mean, we were able to. It was fine. Andrew was able to take it in, stretch it out a little bit, and it appeared. I mean, obviously it wasn't HD, but
Right.
that's very difficult to get anyway, even if you're streaming direct. So it was great.
Right.
It was just a great event. I just liked the interaction. Nalts was wonderful. I think that giving people the opportunity to see this, to see that it's really, while it is real surgery, for sure. There's always a risk of complications. I mean, it's relatively minor. It is something that it just shows how comfortable the person can be while they're in the chair. Obviously, they need a couple of breaks here and there, and they need to eat and go to the bathroom. But it's not a completely unpleasant experience, and that's what a lot of people are concerned about when they're considering this type of surgery.
Right. And I mean, of course, Nalts is an interesting personality, so he brings a lot of humor not only to the videos that he's done up on YouTube, but also to a live streaming event. The robot's not going to be able to crack some jokes like Nalts will, that's for sure.
Right.
But, and sometimes, as we did the surgery on Greg Benson, another YouTube personality, I mean, there was like so much dancing going on in the OR that the staff was like, hey, you got to sit down over here so we can, count the graphs.
Right, we need to do some work.
And and by the time I think it was whatever time we signed off with you, I don't know, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, whatever. After 2 hours, I mean, it was like, well, we got to get down to work here. We got some more work to do.
Yeah, and how was it? I mean, first of all, how many grafts did you get, Tom?
We did over 1,700 grafts for him.
So it was a nice full day. So what is he? He has like a total of about 3,400 grafts.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah. So, another good size session, and I'll tell you, we would not have needed to use as many grafts if the darn guy had just stayed on his Propecia.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I honestly think, and when I brought it up, he kind of almost admitted to it. He said it was like subconscious, but I think because of everything that's been going on with these concerns about the persistent adverse side effects, he probably just thought about it and said, you know what, maybe I don't want to do this. And
I mean, it just gives you another reason, another checkbox in your mind. Whether you realize it consciously or subconsciously, patients tend not to do the refill. You know what I mean?
But he worked for the company. He saw all the research. He knows exactly what the reality is, and it still affected him. And to me, that's very powerful. That really says a lot to, how affected guys are when they hear these, the potential adverse side effects, and now hear all these stories that are circulating and read all these stories online. It's scary stuff. People are really concerned about it. And I'm telling you, and I want my listeners to know that I have never personally met anyone who has suffered any persistent adverse side effects. No one has ever contacted me, not friends or family members. And frankly, Dr. Bauman, everybody that I've ever spoken with personally who has tried finasteride has never had any adverse side effects. Maybe one guy actually complained of, a close friend of mine complained of some testicular pain at the beginning. That was about it. So I mean, I just think that guys, they're not giving themselves the best possible chance of really treating their hair loss based on fear, which still we don't have any real discernible data showing that these things are really happening.
That's true, or at least that it's a cause and effect from the drug. We just don't have that connection. I mean, look, we know that sexual problems and decreased desire, I mean, and even difficulty performing, I mean, these things occur in life, and they occur, as Kevin Nalts said, more often in the placebo group than they did in the Propecia group in those clinical trials.
That's right.
So that tells you that those things are out there in the general public, and our expectations, to live up to Men's Health magazine and GQ and all of that, and what we see in the movies and TV, maybe we set the bar a little bit too high for ourselves sometimes. But with age, these things, these functions and desires decrease over time, and it can be affected by a lot of different factors. I mean, I always talk to my patients about the fact that, look, depression and anxiety can cause problems in those areas as well. And if you're concerned about your hair loss and you continue to lose more hair, then that could exacerbate your problem.
And look,
taking the action to treat your hair loss concern or to restore your hair can actually give you a boost psychologically. Absolutely give you a boost.
100%. And look, I say it all the time. As a guy, I understand this. If you think about it, if it even crosses your mind, there's a good chance it's going to affect you sexually. I mean, once that adrenaline starts to pump, you have really no control over it. You think about it, if you think, okay, this may not work, it's not going to work. That's just the way we operate. That's the way our bodies function. Our sex lives are, it's intimately connected to our brain, our mind. And guys, as soon as it crosses their mind, that's why, you see these stories of these young guys, 18, 19 years old. There's one guy actually that posts on Bald Truth Talk that was 19, I think, and he was really struggling with the notion of getting on Propecia, really hyper concerned about the side effects. He shaved his head. He looked good with a shaved head. Everybody on the site said, you know what, you look good, don't do anything. Right. But he decided to get on the drug anyway. And within like weeks, he said he had to get off the drug, and he went back on, then got off and went back on. And he said the last time that he got off, he was one of the guys that were suffering with persistent adverse side effects. He went into taking the product with the notion that there's a good chance he's going to have these side effects. And, it was a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, and that's why we try to reiterate with patients every single day in the office, patients who have the fears that, look, 98% of patients that we see through the door who start Propecia are not going to have any side effects.
That's right. That's right. But the thing is, it's not even to the point, Doc, where they're just concerned about having side effects. Now they have this concern about persistent side effects. That once they get off the drug, it somehow messed them up hormonally to the point where they can never have an erection again. And this is something that it's really only recently come to light.
It's a myth.
I listen. In my view, obviously there's some people out there that are really suffering, but I just don't see that connection. It has to be proven to me as far as, and maybe it never will. Maybe there's some sort of anomaly. These guys are some sort of anomalies that you just don't see in your practice. I don't know.
Yeah, well, look, I don't know. I mean, I've only, it's not like I see a million patients, but I've prescribed Propecia to, well over 7,000, close to 8,000 patients in my 15 years. So, we have quite a few guys on the drug.
Well, hey, Joe, you there?
Yes.
I'm sure you have a question or two for Dr. Bauman. I don't think he could hang out all night, so I wanted to give you an opportunity to speak to him.
And Joe, you definitely were not bothering me during the live streaming. No problem, man. I love your questions always.
Oh, I'm glad you do. I have two questions, the doctor, if you don't mind, Dr. Bauman. First of all, my first question is, are you using ACell on the donor area, and do you believe it causes donor regeneration, as several doctors, as you know, are claiming?
Well, ACell is an interesting extracellular matrix product, and just for your listeners, Spencer, I mean, I think it's important to understand that there's stuff that we know about extracellular matrix, and ACell is just one of a number of different types of extracellular matrix that you can use. And my background in general surgery, we used extracellular matrix products a lot in wound healing and in wound care. There was a lot of times where I was in the clinics in my general surgery training, more than 15 years ago up in New York, where we had patients who just did not heal. We used extracellular matrix to help out with that. So.
And where was the matrix derived from back then?
Well, we used porcine bladder matrix.
Right.
So there was, there's a couple of different companies that I'm aware of that use the porcine bladder as extracellular matrix. So
and in layman's terms, that's a pig's bladder, guys.
Pig's bladder, yeah. And so here's what extracellular matrix is really supposed to do, and what we're taught in general surgery. I mean, if you have an area that is wounded in the skin, and what the skin, and there's a gap there, there's an opening, and the skin has to kind of regenerate that. Usually, it would create some kind of a scar tissue because the body has to reproduce or reconfigure the cells in order to have the building blocks for the other cells to come on and create the wound and to repair the defect. And so what extracellular matrix is supposed to do is supposed to speed up that process by giving those migrating cells some kind of a scaffold to kind of hold on to, so that what you end up with after the porcine bladder has been reabsorbed by the body is a wound that has healed with less scar and more regular skin.
Right.
So that's a good thing. I mean, that's very cool. And I can tell you that I had some patients, this was many, many years ago, a patient who was in a terrible accident, had a piece of his scalp avulsed or removed, so it was really down to the bone. And we used a large piece of this, not ACell, but a different type of porcine bladder to help that area rejuvenate. And it worked phenomenally well. So we have some good experience in knowing what the wound healing process is.
Right.
Of course, ACell has, the claim to fame on ACell, I think that most people are aware of, is the fact that a lot of these, the stuff that you see on the internet with YouTube videos, is people who have had transected fingertips,
right,
and then they put the ACell powder on, and lo and behold, the finger grows back, which is kind of unusual. You wouldn't typically expect that to occur in the fingertip. So maybe ACell has some special properties that help the body regenerate or rejuvenate. And many doctors have said that they've seen improved wound healing in the donor area. And I have seen that too with the ACell product. Now, but my observations fall short of seeing any kind of hair follicle rejuvenation or regeneration in the donor area.
Now, those are your observations just within your practice, or what you've seen through other physicians who are experimenting with this?
Well, I have not seen conclusive evidence presented that ACell or any other product is going to regenerate follicles that have been completely 100% removed from the donor area. I mean, I think that sometimes with FUE or any kind of an excision out of the donor area, you can leave stuff behind that you may not necessarily realize that you've left behind. Like if you go after a follicular unit of 2 hairs and you get those 2 hairs, well, maybe that was a 3-haired follicular unit, and you left 1 follicle behind that was, just in a resting phase.
Right.
And when you go back months later to go look at that area, maybe there's a hair growing there. Well, is that something that you did through wound healing, or was that just the fact that the hair that was there was just not growing at the time that you took the graft?
Well, as you know, and that's a great point, there are a couple of doctors who are making claims that they are regenerating the donor area. One, with conventional, using conventional strip surgery and an ACell, and there's actually 2 doctors who are claiming that they are doing it with FUE. Now, the one doctor that we've had on the program who talks about that, and I know that it made I think probably presented this at the ISHRS conference, was Dr. Gary Hitzig. A lot of mixed, reviews as far as what I've heard from other doctors concerning his research. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I have to say that, again, I'm still not convinced. I do use the ACell in my practice for a number of different things. I have not seen it in my own hands create any kind of regeneration of the hair follicle. And and even Jerry Cooley in his presentation, when he has told us over many years, he's presented these things at the conference. He said, well, the first punch I took when I went back to the photos and I looked, I didn't realize how transected those hair follicles were.
Right.
And afterwards, those transected follicles, of course, regrew and grew back through the scar tissue or the resulting healing area in the donor the donor region where he originally made a punch harvest. So what he was looking at afterwards was the hairs that he basically either had missed or had transected, that he did not remove 100% completely from the donor area.
Well,
I don't know. I mean, look, I just don't think that if you remove the entire organ completely from the skin, if you remove the entire follicle, I don't think the application of a wound healing treatment is going to make the hair follicle, return to that area. I don't think.
You think that it would make the donor area a kind of a better, give it a better field when you go in for the second procedure? In other words, if you're growing less fibrotic tissue back, and you just
well, there you go. I mean that and that's a great reason to use, whether we're talking about PRP, like the Autologel, which is an FDA-approved wound healing platelet-rich plasma process, or you mixing PRP with the ACell, which is of course introducing this animal tissue. If you're trying to get better quality wound healing, hey, I'm all for that. And you and I, I've spoken to you on a number of occasions about hyperbaric oxygen over the years,
right,
and different things that we do. There's a number of different extracellular matrix products that I've used personally over the years. The porcine bladder, and then there's another one called Matrix, which is a liquid gel. We started using that a couple of years back, and then, but I have to tell you that mostly what we're doing now for the wound healing is PRP.
Yeah.
It's just the PRP is actually, it is your own body's extracellular matrix.
Right.
And it's the fibrin.
Do you think
fibrin clot?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry to cut you off. Now, do you think that? I mean, are you using it in the recipient area as well, PRP?
I've done each. I've done, in some cases, I've used it in recipient zones. In some cases, I've used it as a standalone therapy in areas of hair loss or even alopecia areata. I've used it also as, I use it most routinely. The autologous process I use most routinely is for wound healing in the donor area. And so in the beginning of the day, and we did this with Nalts, so that even though we did it way before, many hours before you went live on the stream.
Right.
We took some samples of his blood, which he did, which was difficult to get actually for Nalts.
Oh, really?
But yeah, he was not an easy stick. So we took a few samples of his blood and we spun it down with the autologous process made by, it's a machine made by Cytomedics,
right,
a company that makes centrifuge, and use their process to activate it. And at the end of the day, we spray that on the donor area. And so we activate it and spray it directly on the donor area. And I think it helps with the healing. I see a difference in terms of how quickly, even the FUE sites,
right,
seem to heal and contract. And
now, do you think in the end, they heal with less scarring, from what you've seen?
Well, I think that they do. I mean, we're still in the midst of testing, and of course, we only have a few patients that we've done this on, and we're working on the split studies, meaning doing it on one side of the scalp and not the other, so we can compare. But I think that there's a definite improvement when you apply this platelet-rich plasma directly at the time of the injury to the donor area, and I think that does help. I think it does help the wound healing. And now, how many guys are really going to care that microscopically their wound healing is better? I don't know the answer to that, but I certainly feel good at providing it. And
but what if you're able to? What if you're able to, in the long run, extract another, 15% more grafts, where there's less fibrotic tissue around each, around each of the scars.
Well, that's true. I mean, maybe that would occur. I think the major benefit is that there's less of that shiny white skin in and around those areas that we've harvested. So what happens is that the FUE sites become even more hidden than they would normally, because
right,
that skin just has a more normal looking texture. So I think that's the major benefit.
I have a question for you. There's kind of a little mini battle going on our message forum about the punch sizes when it comes to FUE. And there's a couple of guys out there that have been screwed over by some doctors in the industry who are now saying that unless it's 0.75, 0.85, 0.95 maybe millimeters, as far as a 1 millimeter punch, anything above those numbers are something that you shouldn't be using. Now, do you agree? I mean, I know that you guys use a 1 millimeter punch, right?
No,
I
use 0.8.
0.8.
Yeah, I use 0.8 every single time, actually.
0.8.
The only time we go up to
I apologize for that. For some reason, I thought it was 1. Maybe it was at 1 point. I don't know.
Yeah, well, in the beginning, when we got the OmniGraft, which was the device that I purchased before the NeoGraft, it only came with 1.5s and 1.25s, and they would just come out with a 1.0 for the OmniGraft. And then when I acquired the NeoGraft, they only had 1.0s, and they had nothing smaller. But we were finding that there's no question, the smaller the size of the punch, the less trauma there is in the scalp. There's no question in my mind about that. But remember, look, a lot of these guys that I see come in who've had surgeries done 20 years ago, they had 4 millimeter punch grafts.
Of course.
And, and if they have long enough hair, you don't see those. But the point is that there's no question in my mind that the smaller the diameter, the less your body has to do to heal that area. And the better it's going to look.
So you guys are using 0.8s.
0.8, yeah.
That's amazing.
The only time we bump up to 1.0s would be for the if we're having, let's say, difficulty with an African American patient, a patient with very, very tight, curly, coarse hair,
right,
that we need to go a little bit larger. But I'll tell you, even those cases we've done most recently, I'm talking within the past year, we haven't had to go up to a 1.0.
Now, what about the Artist system? From what you saw at the ISHRS, what size punch were they using?
Oh, they don't have anything smaller than a 1.0.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is a little bit larger. And remember that they also don't use any heavy-duty intradermal tumescence.
Right.
And so you may say, well, what's the big deal about tumescence? Think about it like this. If I put...
It stretches out the scalp.
Yeah, it stretches out a lot, and it also lifts the hairs, which help me extract the grafts. If you make a 0.8 millimeter incision with an area that has a ton of tumescence, it's almost like when you let the air out of the balloon, that diameter is going to get very, very small, very, very quick. Very small, very quick. So within 24 hours, it's contracted down to half the size already. Yeah. But with the artist system, my concern is that because there's no tumescence and it's a 1 millimeter punch, that it's actually those scarred areas might be larger than the neograft that what we're doing, or might be larger than anybody using a 0.8 or something smaller with tumescence. And and people say, oh, you don't need tumescence to get the grafts, and that may be true in some people's hands, but remember that if you don't tumesce, you're not going to get as small of an incision as you could.
Yeah, but doesn't it, in general, first of all, it stretches out the area. So if you kind of think of it as, if you picture a balloon and you make, say 100 little dots, you blow up a balloon, make 100 little dots in a balloon, obviously when you let the air out, all those dots and the size of that, the area actually shrink, and vice versa. So when you expand that area, it gives you, I think, obviously I've never performed surgery, but I would assume it gives you an easier field to work with.
It does, and what you just described is actually my secret technique. Or don't tell anybody that I use in the recipient zone to get as high a density of grafting as I can. So I do a lot of very, very tight tumescence in the shallow area, just in the shallow part of the skin, so that when I make my incisions and that tumescence goes away afterwards, the incisions are actually much closer together than I originally made them.
Right. That's interesting. That really is. I'd like to. I know that Bob Bernstein just got himself an artist system. I know that Craig Ziering has the artist now. He's working with it. I know, obviously, Dr. Harris with the live robotic surgery event with him. I'm wondering if they're going to be working on smaller punches. I don't see why they wouldn't. And there's got to be something in the works at this point.
I'm not privy to exactly what their rollout is of the different phases of technology that they're doing. I know that they want to move the industry forward. They're not in the business of just, moving these robots out as is. They've got a 5 and a 10-year plan for them. And they have many revisions, which would include also other automated other parts of the procedure.
Yeah, I think what they should do is they should add like multiple arms to the, with multiple punches, so that you can, cover more area in one shot.
Well, absolutely. That would increase the speed quite a bit.
Yeah.
But remember that I don't know if you remember from the video. You of course you saw it that they have to move the tensioner each time.
That's right. Well, not each time. They don't. The tensioner doesn't move every time they take a graft.
Well, no, each zone, every 100 or so many grafts that they extract.
Right.
So if you could take out 100 in 20 seconds, then you'd be moving the tensioner every 20 seconds.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, listen, I think only time will tell. There's a reason I think Bob Bernstein picked it up. He's a relatively conservative guy, and he must think that there's something to this device. Who knows? Maybe all the guys, the IHRS guys who are getting it are going to help to improve it. I know that Dr. Harris was really instrumental in the development of the artist.
Sure. Yeah, Dr. Harris is behind it 100%, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that the first generation of surgeons that are going to grab onto this device are the ones that really don't offer a whole lot of FUE in their practice.
Right. That's true. But that's also those are also the guys that are going to get their hands on the neograft.
I know the artists is they're more focused on the ISHRS surgeons. They're more focused on the hair doctors.
Yeah.
But again, they're focused on hair doctors who do mainly linear harvesting.
That's right.
They're not really focused on the guy. Look, I don't know what Bob Bernstein does in his practice. I only know from my casual discussions with him and the presentations. But it sounded to me that he doesn't really do all that much FUE in his practice.
No, I know that he's mostly a strip practice. Obviously he was co-author of the first paper on FUE, and he actually coined the phrase or the term FUE. But I think that I'm not saying he abandoned the technique. I just think that he believed for a long time that it really wasn't the gold standard. And he believed that in his hands, at least in his practice, that doing a conventional strip and doing, you know, a really good follicular unit transplant was the way to go. You're right. Maybe this is he just sees this as another option to expand, you know, what he's offering in his practice. And you know, I guess, like I said, he's a conservative guy, so I don't think he would have purchased the machine if he didn't think it was going to be benefiting patients.
No, absolutely. I agree with you there. And you know, and one of the things that we learn in surgery is, you know, from my surgical background, is to know what you can do and what you can't do. And there are many, you know, many of my colleagues who do a phenomenal strip harvest and, you know, and just refuse to do FUE. They just don't do any of it. They, in fact, hate to do it. So, you know, for those guys, maybe if they want to expand their practice into FUE and they know that they particularly don't like to do it, don't care to do it, or don't want to do it, then the robot will do it.
Well, you said something interesting during the live broadcast, and I basically said that you've converted your practice to an FUE practice, and you said, well, it was more of an evolution. And that was really well said, because I've known you for a long time, and I've seen you evolve your practice into what it is today. And you were the first, or not the first, but one of the first guys to really embrace FUE when I was trying to talk to all of the doctors in the organization about it when I initially met Ray Woods. And you were very open to it. You know, you were very open to embracing it and learning more about it. And like you said, I think you invented, or you developed your own manual instrument back in 2002.
Correct. Yeah, the Bauman Mindex was not an easy instrument to use, but it did get the job done, and I felt like it worked better than the standard punches, or 1 millimeter punches that were available at the time. And in fact, I think that, you know, if you ask Jim Harris, it was one of the first instruments that he purchased to figure out how to do FUE. You know, and there were a lot of guys. I know Bill Rassman asked me to send him one, and so forth. So I don't know why he just didn't buy it from A to Z Surgical like everybody else did, but of course I had to send him one.
Well, you know, that's Bill. You know.
You know,
yeah.
But you know, so you know, but the thing is, it didn't come easy, but it was like chipping away at a large mountain. You know, you just kind of chip away, and you know, it's a series. I think the success comes from a series of small, consistent efforts over time. Meaning that over time, I learned, you know, what worked and what didn't work, and I knew our limitations in terms of how many grafts we could accomplish. You know, sometimes you get in over your head. You got to spend an extra 2 hours to get another 100 grafts, you know, in those early days.
Right.
And it was not easy, but, you know, we learned little by little. And then, of course, automated FUE was being done in Europe. I mean, the Calvatron was a device that was being marketed and sold mainly in France and developed there in France. And it was a little bit crude. It was a little bit clunky. And but we saw the new versions of that come down the pike in the form of the OmniGraft. At the same time, I was using the Rotacore, and that was in 2006. Using the Rotacore to try to remember. I don't know if you know what the Rotacore is.
We spoke about it. I think you actually once sent me a picture of it.
Yeah, the Rotacore was a very clever device. It was a disposable device that you would basically hold in your fingertips, you know, between your thumb and forefinger, and you could push it against the skin, and the device would retract and also spin at the same time. So kind of like a corkscrew, it would spin backwards into the handle, and you could. It was the first device that I ever used that had a depth limiter on it that you could adjust as you went. So there were these little washers that you could put on top of it around the punch up to a little nub that would determine how deep the punch would go. And I realized that was really critical because different areas of the scalp, you know, were easier than others with different depth.
And that was key.
Yeah. And then, of course, the OmniGraft, which was kind of a step back. I probably didn't tell you too much about that one because it really didn't work all that well.
Oh, you did a little bit. You told me that. It wasn't great.
It was a clunker. I mean, it was like trying to use a Coke bottle to get the grafts out of the skin. So, you know, but these little, you know, it's a series of small, consistent efforts over time to move it forward and forward and forward. And the original videos that we saw in the NeoGraft that were coming from Europe, I mean, those videos are totally different than what we do today with that device.
Right.
So if you tried to judge that device based on those, you know, non-depth limited two-handed approaches into the skin, I mean, it looks scary when you see those videos.
I think the problem with the current device, I think the problem with the NeoGraft isn't the NeoGraft. I don't think that's the problem at all. I think it's probably in the hands of someone like yourself and your team. You're probably getting really beautiful grafts. And they're they're viable. Robust grafts, and you guys know how to use it. But it's user dependent. And the problem is, and we say this all the time, that the NeoGraft is getting into the hands of people who just aren't skilled hair transplant surgeons. That's the problem. It's not the NeoGraft itself. It's the way that it's being marketed. That's all.
I agree with you. And but this, but I have to tell you, I mean, I don't necessarily think this is a new phenomenon. I just think that you're hearing about it because there's a name tied to a device. I mean, look, the barrier to entry into hair transplant surgery years ago,
was a scalpel.
So we're talking like 20 years ago, it wasn't even a scalpel. It was a punch biopsy tool that was sitting in every dermatologist's desk drawer.
Right.
So anybody could whip out a punch and go to work. And of course, things got more complicated with microscopes and large teams and so forth. But I think the key is that your listeners and the hair loss sufferers out there who are thinking about hair transplant, they've got to do their research not on the fanciest, newest, latest and greatest device or technique. They got to find the surgeon. They got to find the doctor that they can connect with, that they can trust, and that will help manage their expectations, their goals, and put together a plan of action that's dynamic. Because many times patients come in today, and the plan that we had 4 or 5 or 6 years ago isn't necessarily working so good.
Right.
And we need to change it. We need to modify it. Maybe they don't want to be on Propecia, or maybe they don't want to use a topical, or maybe they've been using, an old-fashioned laser comb device, that they got to hold over their head. Maybe they need something new, something different, something better, and something that they can be a little bit more compliant with. So it's, I think the message is that to find that doctor, not necessarily the technique. I mean, technique's important. Don't get me wrong, because you got to have the right paintbrushes, you got to have the right tools. But you really, you got to look for that person.
Well, I think that was well said. And I think the biggest issue again is, the media latches onto something, and it gets a lot of play. It's very exciting for people when someone in their local news, something on their local news comes out saying, brand new, hair transplant technology. And basically the way they promote it is, now anyone can get their hair back. And people are, in the mindset that, wait a second, this new technology. I'm going to get a full head of hair back. They have no idea what the possible scope and the scope and possible pitfalls of any type of hair transplant procedure is, because really, in my view, really marketed irresponsibly, not necessarily by the practice, but more by the media. And I don't know where the disconnect is. Listen, everyone has to, you send out your press releases, and we all send out, information about ourselves. And then it's really, the press picks it up, and you only have so much say in the matter. They want to make the story as sexy as possible, and I think that's a big problem.
Yeah, there's a lot of sizzle to the story, and hair stories are very, very popular with the general public because it's a common problem that everybody wants a solution to. But I guess there's that cause for pause, that patients need to take a step back and do their due diligence and do their research. And that's not to say that somebody can't learn how to use the NeoGraft or how to become a good surgeon.
That's right.
But you can't you can't have a full-time plastic surgery practice and then, like, next week be a hair transplant surgeon.
Look,
one guy doesn't work that way.
One guy I think is really taking the NeoGraft seriously and being a hair transplant surgeon seriously is what's his name, Ken Williams.
Ken Williams, great example.
I think he's a guy that's come out of nowhere. We haven't received any complaints, and we're the clearinghouse for complaints from Ken. Now, maybe he has a few unhappy patients. I'm not saying he does, but I guess everybody does. But I guess the bottom line is he's managing his practice really well so far, and he seems to really care about what he does. So I have a lot of respect for the way he's gone about things.
Well, I'll tell you the things that he's done right. I mean, look, he was in Orlando at the Live Surgery Workshop. He was at last year's Boston ISHRS meeting. He was at this year's Anchorage ISHRS meeting. So, I mean, the guy is doing the due diligence and doing the time and doing everything he can to sharpen his skills.
I don't think he's in love with me anymore because I was honest about his marketing. But, I say it like it is. I give him his props where he deserves him. And I also, if I have a criticism, I'm not going to hold back.
No, and I mean, it may bruise him a little bit initially, but I think in the long run, that was very good advice, what you gave him. And look, he can change and move and alter those messages. It's his opportunity to do that, and that's
Right.
part of the learning curve also. I mean, look, my first brochure that I ever had, and back 15 years ago, was a picture of a let's just say a more elderly gentleman with a younger woman.
Right.
And and what we learned was that wasn't what our patients were like. I mean, our patients were young guys. They're guys in their 20s and 30s struggling with premature hair loss. It wasn't
Right.
these old timers.
Trying to recapture their youth.
Yeah. I mean, maybe there's a few in Boca, but
Sure.
in general, that was not the shape and face of our practice. Our practice is, our average age is 40, and so we've got just as many guys under the age of 40 as we do over.
Right. Well, listen, Dr. Bauman, I'm not going to keep you on all night, and I appreciate
Sure.
the fact that you took the time to call, as usual. I just want to thank you again for the opportunity to basically, in essence, come into your surgical suite and have that live interactive broadcast with Nalts, and it was incredible. I loved the fact that we were able to not only get on our usual resources, but it was really the first live streaming hair transplant on YouTube, and it was a really big deal. It really was.
Yeah, we did make some history there, and I'd be interested to learn some of the feedback that you got from your viewers, and maybe we can start to go through some of that feedback and see if there's some people out there that we can help further.
Absolutely.
Or even learn from what they liked or didn't like, or what they wanted to see more of for the next time. So, but thank you you and Andrew did a great job producing the show, and really made it very, very easy for us to get the word out, and for us to get the message across that, look, the hair transplant's a viable, safe, effective treatment option.
Yeah. Well, listen, again, thank you so much for taking the time to call on a Sunday night, and I will get that information to you. We'll speak more probably after the holiday. And if anyone has any specific questions for Dr. Bauman, you can contact him directly through his website. It's baumanmedical.com. And is there another way for you to be contacted besides the website?
Email is a good way, too. If you spell out Dr. B, DOCTORB, at baumanmedical.com, BAUMAN medical.com, or 877-BAUMAN-9 is a good telephone number that works during business hours and after hours as well. Leave a message.
All right, Dr. Bauman, thanks a lot for the call, and we'll talk soon.
Have a happy Thanksgiving,
All right, you
Spencer,
too.
and all
You
your
too.
listeners as well.
All right. Take care. 888-659-3727, 888-659-3727. Sorry if I appear to be a little preoccupied. I'm just getting a lot of IMs, and people are talking about what's happening in New York, and so I'm multitasking. So forgive me. So Joe, did he answer any the question you were concerned? You're concerned, or you wanted to know about ACell and if they're using it for donor areas, and obviously he is using extracellular matrix and PRP, but in his practice he hasn't seen any follicle regeneration.
Right, that's the impression that I got. I did have several more questions to ask him, but I understand he had to vacate.
Well, you were potted up the whole time. You could have just asked him.
No, well, he was speaking. I don't want to be rude and interrupt. You know what I'm saying?
Joe Tronick wants to know what's happening in New York. There was a terrorist attempt thwarted, and it was a pretty big one. A guy in Washington Heights was building a pretty elaborate bomb. So, anyway.
Well, I was watching the report myself. I was more interested in dissecting Commissioner Kelly's headline, actually.
Oh, Jesus, Joe. He looks fine. It works for him.
I think so. I've met the guy on several occasions. I would agree with that.
Yeah, you don't think he looked pretty good?
No, I actually, I've met him. He's not a nice person, I can tell you that.
Oh, really?
Kind of doesn't look too swift. Very arrogant individual. For hair loss sufferer, I think he should tone it down.
Well, he's a pretty big wig, so to speak, no pun intended. So maybe that's why. But listen, Joe, we're going to take a break. I'll keep you on the line, of course. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. We were just on the line with Dr. Alan Bauman, IAHRS accepted member. I just swallowed that. IAHRS accepted member. And he was kind enough to allow us into his surgical suite so that we were able to actually do the first live streaming hair transplant on YouTube last Friday, which was a huge event. It was incredible for the world of hair loss and hair restoration. I don't know if the doctors who weren't involved realize how powerful that is for the field and for what we're trying to accomplish. There were some guys, I'm part of this ISHRS Facebook group. Actually, several of those guys private messaged me asking me about the event and congratulating us on the event, which I think is great. I don't get a lot of contact from the non-IHRS members. But it was really huge for the industry, and it really is something that I think that it's not just a couple of guys who I guess were kind of pissed that they weren't involved, or there's a couple of guys out there with sour grapes think that just kind of like a marketing event. It wasn't. That's not what it was. We actually were able to interact with a guy going through the procedure on YouTube, a guy that's already had one positive experience that wanted to share his second experience with the world again, but this time on YouTube Live. And it, in my view, probably benefited hundreds of thousands of potential hair transplant patients and hair loss sufferers, people who are considering going through surgical hair restoration, to really give them some insight of what goes down during the procedure. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. We'll be right back after this brief message. Stay with us.
The man who's helping to make hair loss history.
They wish to cure us, but I say we are the cure.
It's Spencer David Kobren.
Rogaine, even if it works for you, if you want to keep your hair, you can never stop using it. Rogaine is the middle-aged equivalent of crack.
Hey guys, welcome back. 888-659-3727. Thanks for hanging out, guys. This is the Bald Show. I know it's fucked up. What am I going to do? This is what I do. 2/3 of you by the age of 35 are going to be dealing with hair loss. 40% of hair loss sufferers are women. And it's a silent epidemic of biblical proportions that affects just about every household. That's why I'm able to do what I do. I had the BBC in here last week, sitting here with this guy who's very well known, Jerry Anderson in Ireland, and he's an award-winning, Sony award-winning broadcaster. And listen, it's my ignorance. I had no idea who he was. Nice guy. But, he just couldn't understand. He's like, he doesn't understand how do you make a living doing something like this? I'm like, listen, dude, this is the house hair loss build. This is all I do. And the reason I'm able to be successful is because 200,000 of us wake up every day for the first time realizing that we're losing our hair. 200,000. We don't know where to turn, what to do. And I don't sell anything. I had to explain that to him. I don't sell any products or services. I've written a couple of, very well read and, just well-known best-selling books. Well, one was a bestseller. One was just sold pretty well. I started the IHRS, and I've done some other things, with the radio broadcast, terrestrial radio for about 12 years, and satellite radio, and then the online thing, and that's it. He's like, you mean you broadcast just once a week, and you're making a living? And I'm like, yep, that's it. This is all I do. And it's mind-boggling to me that he's doing a documentary. He's a nice guy, don't get me wrong. He really means well. He's a really smart guy, and I think they had a great team that they came came over here from Ireland. But they're still floored when they really are introduced to this community, even though he's part of the community. He may not want to be a part of it, but he's part of it. But they have no idea just how huge this issue is. They must know to some degree because they're doing a documentary for PBS. But I still don't, until they started to delve into the message forums and speak to some of the guys that I recommended that they speak with, I don't think they understood that there are guys out there like Joe from Staten Island and other guys who have become recluses because of bad hair transplants, whose lives have been destroyed because they feel uncomfortable in their own skin. I don't think they understood. They see a dollar figure like $3.5 billion spent, but I guess they were under the impression that, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, that most of the products that were being sold, in the industry were working. Otherwise, who would buy them? But that's not the case. It's a $3.5 billion a year industry, and most of the shit does not work. It's insane. But that's just the way that it is. We created this place as a safe place for men and women who are dealing with hair loss to come and vent and share their experiences and to learn from each other. We created baldtruthtalk.com just 3 years ago. We put up the message forum, and it has been the fastest growing message forum in the history of this industry. We have almost as many registered users in 3 years as forums that have been around for 13. And I believe the reason for that is because of what we stand for and what we do during this broadcast and through some of the other work through the American Hair Loss Association and the IHRS. And that's providing people with truly empowering information. It's not about controlling the flow of information on the internet. It's not about creating a platform for physicians and for other product salespeople to make a living. It's about getting information out to the public who need it. Objective information. 888-659-3727. Let's get to the phones. Joe, you're still potted up, by the way.
You guys, a quick comment, if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
You say something very interesting every week. Hair loss is a $3.5 billion a year industry. And the fact is only approximately 5% of hair loss sufferers really seek any type of treatment because really nothing is that effective. Can you imagine something really effective came out? Can you imagine what the industry would be worth then a year?
I agree. Well, the estimate is less than 5%. It's about 1 to 2% of people actually do something about their hair loss. But I think the estimate is it's a little low because I would say that most hair loss sufferers will try something at least once, whether it's just some bullshit vitamin or something to treat their hair loss. A lot of these estimates are coming from the drug companies and from the hair transplant field and from the more effective products and services. But there's so much bullshit that's being sold out there that people will try once, or that someone's mother or aunt will pick up in the local drugstore and say, hey, give this a shot. That's all included.
But in my humble opinion, if something really effective came out, in the United States alone, I think it would be $100 billion a year industry.
It might be. It might be even bigger than that.
Right. All right. So to make that comment.
I'm in the wrong business. I got to get on that end of the business. 888-659-3727 is the phone number. Let's take a phone call. Hey, who's this? You're on the air.
Hey, Spencer, how you doing?
Johnny, man, what's going on?
I'm not bad. Have Joe from Staten Island, my hair loss brother from another mother. How you doing?
Okay, Johnny. Happy Thanksgiving and happy birthday, man.
Birthday is the 27th, and happy Thanksgiving to you and Spencer and everyone else out there in the Bald Truth listening audience.
Johnny, I think you're really gunning for an opening. That's what I think it is, because you've been calling just about every week, which is awesome. So I think you're gunning to get your own opening.
I have no life.
Why don't you have your staff prepare something for Spencer?
It's very possible. Maybe I'll do it myself.
What did he say?
He said, why don't I have my staff prepare something for him?
Oh, okay.
I might have something produced for some of my boys out there. Now, I haven't heard from George for a while, and I'm a little worried about him, actually.
I think George may be possibly having maybe a relationship with a young lady, maybe.
Really? Why do you say that?
I don't know. I just think maybe George is... I don't know.
If I was a betting man, and I am, I would say that's probably not the case.
Well,
George has been very agitated lately, as you've noticed. He's been very unhappy and very agitated.
And it's not that he couldn't have a dating relationship. He sent me a picture of himself. I know that he's in awesome condition, and he's a really smart guy. He's just, he's got this thing about letting women know that he covers his head with paint.
I'm sure there's going to be some woman out there, though, that'll take that into account, and it's not going to be a factor to her, though.
I think most women, especially if you're going for someone who's age appropriate, could give a crap as long as you look good.
True. When you start getting in your 40s and 50s, there's certain things that just doesn't matter.
No, I wouldn't date. I wouldn't date a girl past 33. But no, I'm just kidding. That's not true because Froggy's going to get pissed off at me, and that's not true, Froggy. I find myself more and more attracted to women, in my age bracket as I'm getting older. Not that I give a shit, I didn't decide to go out with Yvette because I thought she was so much younger than me. It just kind of happened, So I'm definitely not an ageist.
You just happen to be in the right bar at the right time, right?
Yeah, I happened to be. She happened to be drunk enough to accept my, my flirtation or whatever I did. I don't know. I looked at her, I talked to her. I tried to be cool, and I guess it worked.
Can I ask you a personal question? You're going to probably tell me go pound salt, but did you paint your head then?
Oh, when I first met her?
Yes.
Let's see. I think I was just starting to paint my head. I think, you know what? No, when I first met her, no. But within the first 3 months of knowing her, I started to paint my head. And I wasn't ashamed to tell her that I was going to.
And not a big deal to her.
Well, let's put it this way: when she met me, she was able to see thinning scalp, and now she doesn't. So I think it's an improvement. So no, why would it be a big deal to her?
No, I'm just saying that
she was already naked with me at one point, by then. So I think if it becomes a big deal at that point, then it's time to skip town.
You had premarital sex, Spencer? That's terrible.
No, I didn't say we had sex. We still haven't had sex, according. I don't want our mother to think we have sex.
Oh.
There's no sex involved.
It was art.
Yeah, I just paint her. She just poses for me. No.
So I didn't get to catch the Dr. Bauman YouTube feed Friday. You're going to broadcast that again?
By the way, yeah, actually, it's on the site right now. You can go to thebaldtruth.com. Actually,
okay,
Froggy, I still keep her drunk. That's why she stays with me. So, drunken diamonds.
Girl's best friend.
Yeah. So, God, what a world we live in, huh? What a world we live in. I just want everyone to know out there that honestly, it's not all about looks. The bottom line is you just have to feel comfortable in your own skin and look good enough. Especially as a guy, you do not have to be Brad Pitt. Yeah, all the girls they swoon over guys like that. If you're good looking enough and you're cool and you make a good living and you're a respected person in whatever field you're in, and that's all a woman wants. Whether you're just a guy going to work every day and making sure you're taking care of your kids and paying the bills and all that stuff, or if you have more financial success than that, whatever it is, as long as you're comfortable doing the right thing, I think women find that sexy.
And yeah, but also too, when you lose your hair, like you said, it's a chink in the armor. The other guys they smell blood in the water, and then
they do.
You lose your confidence.
No, you absolutely do. That's why I don't think covering up or wearing a hairpiece or getting a good hair transplant or whatever you need to do to get that confidence and to walk into the world feeling good, I think that's what you have to do. Most of the guys that call this program are like Joe and, I think you and other guys, they would never wear hair. And that's totally understandable because, there's this stigma about it. But there are guys who are married for a long time whose wives would just want to see their husbands happy or look better. You know what I mean? So, yeah, Suncast wouldn't wear hair either. Suncast, I think you're wearing hair, actually. I'm telling you, I'm going to meet Suncast in person. He's going to be wearing a big-ass wig. Like, no one knows that. Like, Andrew met him, because Andrew doesn't have an eye for it.
It's, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I can tell a system when I see one.
I think most of us.
I don't think I've ever been fooled.
I think most of us can. I think most of the guys that are really, really into it can. But I don't think that most people who live normal lives, who don't think about hair and hair pieces, can really tell a good hair piece because they're so used to seeing the bad ones. You probably understand the nuances of a hair piece and what, looking at the sides and the back and not just the hairline. Because a hair piece, you could be fooled with a hairline in a hair piece. You really can, especially with these lace systems. But what really gives it away, in my view, even if a guy has good sides, is the way that it contours on the side here and also in the back.
Exactly. That's how I pick it up.
That's really how, because hairlines they really have down for hair pieces. They really do. It's really about the backs, especially the back, because it has that flip. A lot of and that's hard to get rid of. You really have to have someone really creative work with your hair. But listen, I think these are all options that people need to take into account. And I was really surprised. I had known that Dr. Bauman was using smaller punches in general. I thought that it was specific to his practice. But I guess that particular device has evolved to the point, and maybe with the help of Dr. Bauman, where they are using on average 0.8 millimeter punches, which is incredible, which is great. That's what I think most guys who are considering FUE want. And it is true. The smaller the punch, the less of a scar you're going to have. That's just the way that it is. So there was some debate going on in Bald Truth Talk, and I just wanted to kind of clear that up, that, at least in Dr. Bauman's practice, he is using a smaller punch than, say, some of these other devices.
That was interesting.
I don't know if it was really that interesting. I don't know.
Well, it is.
I don't know how interesting it really is.
Well, it is because, if he's cosmetically, that means a lot.
Yes. No, I'm just busting your balls, dude.
And I don't mind.
Yeah. Yvette is actually at a children's birthday party, which I couldn't go to because I had to work. So I got to get my drinking in before she comes, before her and her parents come back.
Well, speaking of family, how's your dad doing?
My dad is okay, thanks. He's hanging in there. He's I got him a trainer that comes to the house. I mean, his insurance and the VA, they pay for like physical therapy, which is like the guy just comes in, like walks him down the hallway and says, okay, takes his blood pressure and his pulse and says, all right, he's alive, and that's it. So I actually got him someone that actually trains him, and the trainer texts me every day, or after every session, just saying your dad's getting much stronger, he's really improving. So I'm hoping that we can just, we can prop him up.
God bless him.
Prop him up and keep him alive for another few years.
How's his mental outlook? Is it getting better? Or
no, it'll never get better.
No.
My father is perpetually depressed. He always has been, much more as he's getting older, obviously. But, the war definitely effed him up, and just life in general. So it was never great to be around, but I was, for whatever reason, like I said, I was able to separate myself. I was like a latchkey kid. I kind of grew up fast and kind of understood my responsibility at an early age. And, I almost became like, I guess, like the parent in a sense.
Denteen and Slish.
Yeah.
Slit.
Yeah.
That can't be easy for me to say.
But kind of, and that's just the way that it is, man.
See, I look at my father, and he could die tomorrow, and I would accept it because he never knew pain in his life.
Well, I would accept it too. My father's 88. Of course, I would accept it. My father's really the last family that I have, so that's kind of a weird thing, not to have any of your immediate family left, and I'm relatively young. But I would say that I just want him to have some good years. I want him to stop thinking about the bullshit and just live his life for what it is, and hopefully, for his last days, he can have some happiness. I'm going to get him like a Korean hooker, I think, next month. I'm just kidding, guys. And Froggy, it's a joke.
Just one?
The point I'm trying to make is, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can never cry for my father because he never knew what it was to be a hell or suffer, to live lives like me and Johnny and hundreds of thousands of other people do.
But who knows what his problem was? Maybe he had like Peyronie's disease, or who knows?
I would say Joe's father would have to be around the same age as your father, Spencer. Did your father serve in the armed services during World War II, Joe?
No, actually, he's 5 years younger than Spencer's father. He's 83. No, he was in the National Guard during the Korean War. That was his military experience.
Well, God bless him. I mean, he still served.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny because just because they weren't fighting overseas, being a part of the National Guard is an important thing. You know, I mean, they were guarding this country. What, you know, I mean, only 7 years before, whatever. I mean, we were, you know, attacked by Japan. So, I mean, having a National Guard is of utmost importance. I always, my uncle was in the National Guard. And I remember that my dad would always be like, yeah, you know, he didn't even serve. He was in the National Guard. Of course he served. What happened if some shit happened over here? You know?
First line of defense.
That's right.
But what I detest about my father is he never felt any empathy to me or other hair loss sufferers. That's what I really detest.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, you do judge, Froggy. You are certainly my judge, jury, and executioner in this chat room. I'm just kidding. I don't even know the woman.
Who's that?
We actually need that.
I like her. I like the fact that she hangs out.
She says she's not the moral compass in this room. We really need one, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep us straight.
Well, it's funny. A lot of people. There's a few people in this room, and there's a lot of people that go to Andrew's room, and there's like the stick cam thing, and I'm in this room because I run the show through my own feed here, and then Andrew picks it up and syndicates it everywhere else.
Well, I'm in both.
Yeah. So I mean, what do you watch the show on? Do you watch the show on Stickcam, or do you watch it on GFQ Live or on Ustream?
Depends on which feed is not lagging.
Yeah.
I split it. So I've got both of them going, and yours is like a little ahead.
Yeah, Stickcam seems to have a little bit of. They have a lot of issues on Sunday nights. I don't know why. Ustream seems to be a little bit better lately. I don't know, but anyway, I'm glad we have the opportunity to be on all the streams. 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
It's Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, what's going on, Spencer?
How are you, man?
Good. Long, lazy Sunday coming to a close.
Yeah, those are good days. My day was just all work as usual.
Yeah.
Yvette gets to go out to a nice birthday party, and I got to stay here.
It was a children's birthday party?
Yeah, my brother-in-law has twins that just turned 1.
Oh, wow.
So it's a bunch of parents with their children, and I guess, you know, I mean, you know what? It's like I'm not a big, I don't have children myself, but I like the family thing. So it's always nice to go to these parties, and I happen to like her brothers a lot, and my sister-in-law and all that stuff, so, and the kids. So, but I guess, you know, I got to be here for you guys.
And that's why we all love you.
That's what I'm dedicated. So what's happening, man? I'm glad you put a light on.
Well, you know, I gotta put some hair on my buzz cut, right?
You know, the buzz cut actually works for you, man.
Thank you. Oh, you saw the pictures, huh?
Yeah, I think, you know, listen, obviously it's going to look thinner because you have less hair to utilize to give you that illusion of a full head of hair. But it works for you. You're in your 40s now, and you have a nice, strong-looking hairline. You know, you don't need a lot of hair to look good.
Well, it feels good, and you know, I've had since I started posting the pictures of having the buzz cut, I've had probably more emails over the past week because of that than I have in a long time. And everyone's asking me, well, why does it look so full, even though it's obviously looking thinner, you know, at the short haircut, or the short length, but why does it still look so much fuller than, like, say, a diffused thinner?
Right.
And it's simple, because every hair that's growing on my head is a terminal hair as opposed to a weaker vellus hair.
Right, or a miniaturized hair.
Yeah, exactly, and that's one of the. Hang on, how's my volume? Is that good?
Yeah, I'm boosting it for you.
Okay, all right. But yeah, it's like you know, if you think about it, if you take, like, if I had an identical twin, but was diffused thinning across the top, I would still, you know, hair for hair being the same numbers, I would still look like I have a much stronger head of hair because each hair is terminal, whereas
that's right.
My twin would have the vellus. Not to mention there aren't any glaring gaps where some hairs are thinner finer versus others being stronger. So it's a more consistent level of terminal hair coverage.
And the thing is, you're not a why is that happening? Hold on. You're not a topic user or a Dermatch user. Now, if you were, your hair would look. I mean, it would just be like an incredible full-looking head of hair. And I understand why. I understand why you're not, because it's addictive. You know, I can't even go to take a piss at night without my makeup on at this point. So.
Well, you know, it's addictive. I mean, I've been down that road before with that Ron Propel, you know, GLH hair in a can.
So you put one of those $1 billion in his pocket.
I am one of the contributors to the
you.
The Robert Pattinson campaign, but you know that stuff was the worst. I mean, it was the true, you know, spray paint hair in a can. I never could get the color right, and even after I realized how ridiculous I looked with the stuff in my hair, I still couldn't stop using it.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a picture of myself at a formal with this girl I was dating, and I thought I was standing out because I had the white tux. Everyone had the black tux. But then I looked at in my picture, and I actually stood out because I looked like a skunk.
Dude, you have to. If you can find that image and you can send it to us, man, I would love to see that. Put that up online.
I'm going home for Christmas, and it's in my things in my mom's house, so I'm going to grab that.
And
I already thought of that. I'm going to post it.
And how old were you?
I was about 25.
Yeah. See, I'm very lucky. I saved a lot of hair, so I mean, even though it's thin on top, with the right application, plus I have the salt and pepper thing going, it just works. You know, I don't have. But if I had less hair and if I had less in the front, like in the hairline, like the mid-anterior scalp's a little thin, and then it's thin back here, there's no way that I could use it. It just wouldn't work. You know, I mean,
you gotta have a good base for it.
You have to have a base for it, and there's just, and that's the thing. Not every product or treatment is for everybody. Everyone is different, and that's what I tell people. When people ask what do I use, I'm like, you know what, I use Dermatch most of the time, but that may not work for you. You may look like that crazy guy who paints his head, and that's not a good look. You don't want to be that guy. I'll admit it for all you guys, because this is what I do. But you don't want to be the guy known for painting his head.
You don't want to be known for the guy painting his head.
Yeah, I mean, I am. That's how I make my living.
But you don't want to be known as the guy who paints his head and doesn't realize that it looks obvious.
That's right.
Like I was. I mean, I swear to God that the color I had picked was about 2 shades lighter than my natural hair.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was ridiculous. But ever since I was able to wean myself off, I swore off the concealers. I'll never go back. I have tried it just to see what it would look like, and it looks unbelievable. I mean, it gives me a true full head of hair. I can spike my hair when it's, when it's longer in a length that's worth spiking. I can spike it, and I mean, no one would ever know that it's not my.
Well, let me ask you now that you're married, and now that I mean, you're not out there worrying about what some new person in a relationship is going to think about you when they find out that you paint your head. I mean, what's so bad? What's so wrong? I mean, would it? Do you think that it would somehow adversely affect you emotionally, especially if you can find something that looks good, or you just think that it's something you just don't want to deal with?
A couple of the levels, yeah. I mean, number one is something I don't want to deal with. I mean, I take Propecia or Proscar every day, and that's all I want to deal with. It takes me 2 minutes to style my hair, and I'm out the door, and I don't, and I'm done.
I think I need to find a Dermatch or a topic support group. Maybe I need to get off of it.
The first step to recovery is admitting your problem. No, but I mean it's on a number of levels. I mean, I know the feeling of not being able to leave the house unless I have something in my hair. I've been there, and it's not something I want to get involved in again. It's mentally and emotionally like a prison. It's like you can't get out, And not to mention the fact that if I were to start using Topic or Dermatch or stuff like that on a regular basis, I would not only be misrepresenting myself to myself, I'd be misrepresenting the work of Dr. Wong. If someone saw me out and then someone said, yeah, that's the guy that had the hair transplant, I don't want to lead anyone down the wrong road.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And that's why I just let the world know that, I paint my head, deal with it. And I said that, when the BBC was here and any interview I've ever done, and they actually look at you like you have two heads. They don't quite get it. They're like, "What do you mean you have makeup in your head, on your head?" I'm like, "I put makeup."
Foreign concept.
Yeah, I put makeup on my scalp. That's what I do. Just like you put makeup on your face, I told this girl, I use it on my scalp. And they don't understand. Like, how does it make you look like you have hair? And you have to explain the whole thing about the contrast with the hair and the scalp. You have to have a decent amount of hair. It's a whole Megillah.
It's a complete subculture that's separate from anything else that anyone's ever experienced.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And yeah, when I have people come in the office for a consultation that they really haven't done a single bit of research, they come in and it's our job to educate them from scratch. It's like, yeah, man, this is something that no matter what I tell you in this hour that we give you, you're going to have to take at least another 6 months to read up on your own to actually get a feel for what I'm talking about.
Dude, when I went to a couple of ISHRS conferences. One conference when I first met Jerry and Victor, I had to convince them that I was painting my head. I had to rub it off, And then your boy Hennessy, a few years ago, he asked me, he's like, "Well, can I touch you?" I'm like, "You cannot touch my hair, dude." But I gave him a close look. He's like, "Well, I don't want to, I don't see anything. I don't want to say you're a fraud." Right away, fraud. I mean, this guy is just, you want to talk about this guy, but they don't understand that it could be done well because everyone sees the bad paint jobs. Everyone sees the bad hair transplants. They don't understand that it could really be, if you know how to finesse it, it could really look good.
Yeah, exactly. And hey, real quick, say hi, everyone. Say hi. Say hi. There's a wife. She's saying hi.
Hey, how are you? Oh, you're a lucky man, dude. You are a lucky man.
Trust me, I feel lucky every day that she doesn't wake up and say, "What the hell am I doing with this guy?"
Oh, she will eventually, but I think it happens to all of us.
Yeah.
I think Yvette's
we're all waiting for that day.
I think Yvette's gotten to that point already.
That's why she's at the children's birthday party.
Yeah, now she just takes a lot of classes,
Yeah. She's working on her PhD.
Yeah. She's doing a lot. She's doing her pottery,
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, Jesus. Unbelievable.
Hey, what was this I was hearing about war service? What, your father was in the service?
My father is a World War II veteran, Bronze Star recipient, 2 Purple Hearts.
As is mine.
Yeah.
As is mine. 101st Airborne, Normandy, and Battle of the Bulge.
Absolutely. My dad was in the Yankee Division, which was the 100. I forgot what it was, but he was a combat engineer.
Yeah, my dad was a combat engineer too.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a small world, man.
Yeah, it is a small world. I used to try and wrangle all kinds of war stories out of him, and I think I heard you mention he wasn't real anxious to talk about war stories.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, he does, and but my dad has post-traumatic stress disorder, and he's really involved with the VA, and I mean, he's basically fully disabled, and he gets 100% combat compensation from the VA, which is pretty rare. You really had to be in the shit to get that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but yeah.
My mom is actually putting together. My father, before he passed 5 years ago, he was actually reciting into a tape recorder his life story and his experience in World War II.
Wow.
And my mom's transcribing it into a book.
Wow.
So yet another World War II book, but it's going to be about my father and his experience. And a few things I didn't realize, and obviously this has nothing to do with hair. But
No, I'm very interested in this.
Well, at his funeral, I actually learned some things about my father that I didn't even know. I mean, I thought it was kind of unusual that it came out during his service, but the minister, who was a close friend of the family, he felt it was time that some people knew about the extraordinary lengths my father went through for our country. And I mean, he was a damned hero. I mean, I'm hearing these things, I'm like, I never knew. And I mean, he saved so many lives during the war, and he did so many really cool stuff.
That's amazing.
and just made me that much more proud of him.
You know, it's funny because, you know, I know my father as my father. I know, you know, all the shit that I had to deal with my dad. But when I read, you know, I used to carry around this commendation for his Bronze Star. But when I read what he did when he was 19, 20 years old, and that he was, you know, I mean, this guy was in battle. He was in battle for over 200 days.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, it's hard to believe it's the same person. But I certainly understand that, you know, all of that affected him to the point that made him who he was as my dad.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he was really, you know, he came back to the States and he just wasn't the same.
Yeah.
You know.
No, but that's cool though. I mean, I didn't realize we had that parallel with our pops, but God bless him.
Absolutely.
So
maybe
but, you know,
maybe you're my long lost brother. My father says he has some secret that he wants to tell me before he dies. I don't know if it's like I used to wear a dress or that I was in prison. I don't know what the secret is.
He's got a watch for you that he kept hidden from.
You know, he gave my nephew his Bronze Star, which I'm glad that at least he gave it to somebody in his family, not the Jamaican woman that he calls mommy. But you know, I was a little like, well, you know, I would have given it to my nephew. You could have given it to me.
You're just glad you didn't have to go down to the pawn shop to recover it, right?
That's true. Well, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen with this kid. I have another family member that, you know, that probably would have happened with.
Don't we both? Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a different story. Ironically enough, speaking of Dad, you know, he was diagnosed with blood pressure issue, God, probably 60 years ago or 50 years ago, and he was prescribed a little known medication at the time called Lonitin.
Yeah.
For the blood pressure, and that is a lot of the listeners probably don't realize, but yeah, that's a pill form of minoxidil.
Yeah.
And he had a decent head of hair until he was about 75 when his doctor at the time switched his medications.
Oh, really?
Guess what happened?
Wow.
He went completely bald. I mean, he showed the true genetic future that I was in for.
Right.
That was pretty much a 7.
How old was he when he passed away?
84.
Wow. Okay, so he lived a pretty long life.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So both of our dads were like, you know, they had us later in life.
Yeah. My dad was 45 when I was born.
Yeah, my dad was 42 or 43, I think. 43 maybe. Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. So let's see who this is. Let's take another call. I'll keep you on hold.
Yeah.
I'll keep you potted up. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, Spencer.
Oh my God. We were worried about you, man.
Oh, I lost a good friend.
Oh,
and,
I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, I told you about a couple of years ago. I'm sorry, who was that?
It's Joe.
It's Joe Tillman. And also Johnny's on the line. And I'm going to try to pot everybody up. You're going to hear my voice is going to be weird because for some reason my setup is... Hey, Joe, can you hear him? Are you up?
Sorry about your friend, George.
Yeah, well, I mentioned it to you guys a couple of years ago. He was a guy that went to college with my dad, and he and I were in a Patriot group together and did some business together. He was a really good guy, and he had been fighting lymphoma and then recently had a pacemaker put in. He was doing great. I talked to him like a week and a half ago, and then like 2 days, he was fine. 2 days later, he was at home by himself in his apartment and passed suddenly. He must have been a heart attack or a stroke or something.
How old was he?
He was 78 or 79, but you know he was a guy who's always been into health and wellness. He was always in good shape, and when he got the lymphoma, you know, he had no plaque in his arteries, and they put him on that toxic chemo, and the next thing you know, it just really messed him up.
Yeah, well,
really messed him up.
I'm sorry for your loss, man.
I appreciate it. It's just been a real depressing day, and I had to go to memorial service, and even though he went to one of these new agey science of mine, religious science churches, and everything's all, you know, sweetness and light and all that, and it's a transition to the better, higher plane of spiritual existence and all that. That it really didn't do a lot to soften the blow for me, man. It was really, really, really hard. But I appreciate the.
I know all about loss, you know, so I'm very familiar with that. So believe me, I know how tough it is. But look, man, you're alive. And as cold as that sounds, life goes on. You got to live your life to its fullest. And and I think you got to do that out of respect for the people that you've loved that are gone.
Yeah. I appreciate your thoughts. I just he passed last week, and I was like last Saturday night, Sunday morning, and I was so bummed out I couldn't even call in last week. But anyway, today we had the memorial service. But it's good to hear everyone's voices. The problem was I'd always invite this guy to come have dinner with my family at the hotel buffets for the holidays, and it's just like guy was always there. He was always looking out for me, and he'd gone to college with my dad, was in theater groups with my aunt, and was always asking about the family. And suddenly holidays come, and the person who's always been there at holiday time, they're not there, and it's just
it's tough, man.
It's really, really, really tough. But anyway, he was a really interesting character, and he was in the Army during Korea. My dad was in the Air Force during Korea, and they both matriculated at this Jesuit college in Mobile in 1951, and went to school together for 7 years, other than the Veterans Club, and he was just a really good guy, loved beautiful women, and was a really eccentric weirdo guy, kind of like me. But anyway,
well, look, at least he just he went quickly, right? It wasn't like he was in the hospital.
Yeah, he had been in and out of the hospital a year ago. He was in there during holiday time, and I went to the hospital, had a little nursing area where he was last year at Christmas time. He was in there because he was so debilitated from chemo, and I went and took my dad. We went and saw him for about an hour. I wheeled him out in the wheelchair, and we spent about an hour talking to him. I wouldn't have given him 2 weeks, but then he rebounded, and they dialed the chemo in, and his lymphoma mass started shrinking, and everything was going great. But he had some atrial fibrillation, so I encouraged him, and he got a pacemaker a couple of months ago. I kept checking him. He was doing great. Seemed like he was strong, was feeling good, and everything was working, and he looked good. And he even went to a mutual friend's house for dinner about a month ago, and everything was going great. And I talked to him like a week and a half ago, and he said everything was fine. And so apparently he just woke up one Saturday morning and told some of his friends on the phone he didn't feel well, and they think probably within the next hour or so he was just sitting there in the chair watching TV and checked out. And they found him like sitting there like he was asleep in the chair with a remote in his hand. He was gone.
Yeah.
So I guess if you're going to go, man, it's better to go that way than
probably had like busty cops on Cinemax or something,
Well, it's real funny you said that because he was a guy that a lot of people thought was gay because if you come from down south down here and you're not married and you're never been married, everybody starts thinking you're gay.
Yeah.
So, but he was a real he literally loved hot girls, and he was always flirting with the women. And it's funny because I was talking with the pastor at his New Agey church today, and she told me, she said he donated everything he had to the Little Sisters of the Poor, which is like a Catholic charity, that took care of his mother for years before she passed away. And she said to me, I was telling, we were talking about how much he liked women, and she said, she says, I didn't think about that. She said, before those Catholic nuns over at Little Sisters get his computer, maybe we need to check it. I said, yeah, you sent me a few nudie pictures, so it's probably something we ought to get scrubbed before it ends up in Catholic charity.
That's very funny, actually. Yeah, I think at this point, anybody's computer.
Yeah, exactly, anyone's computer. So I take it
in my will, the instructions are to destroy my computer.
Burn the hard drive and then smash it into a million pieces.
Yeah, just separate the hard drive. Just get rid of everything.
Yeah, exactly. Since we last spoke, I take it we've had no major breakthroughs and going on.
No major breakthroughs. We had a great YouTube live event on Friday. We actually did a live hair transplant on Kevin Nalts with Dr. Alan Bauman on YouTube Live, which is a relatively new service that YouTube is providing. And it was huge. It was unbelievable how big it was.
Man, I missed that. Is it available? Is it archived for viewing?
It's on the Ball Truth right now.
And who did the recording? Who did the procedure, rather?
Dr. Alan Bauman.
Alan Bauman. Okay, yeah, I've talked with Bauman a couple of times. Really cool guy.
Yeah, very nice.
He's a guy in Boca, right?
Yeah. He's the anti-aging guy.
Right, exactly. I'm really interested in seeing that. Was it a FUE or was it a strip or what?
It was an FUE. He uses the NeoGraft, and he uses we just found that he uses a 0.8 millimeter punch, which is a relatively small punch. And this is the second procedure Kevin Nalts, and I say Nalts because that's how he's known online, had with Dr. Bauman. And, they were kind enough to let us in there. We did this live surgical event, which was, I got to tell you, it was very powerful. We've done several live surgery events, and the last one we did with Dr. Harris was with the artist robot, and that was actually featured not only on Stickam but on Ustream, which was pretty big. But this was featured on YouTube, and it's like I have to tell you, as far as viewership and as far as just the size and reach, this was incredible. I mean, I don't think we've ever reached so many people.
I'm really excited about viewing that. And now the procedure that Bauman did was a manual thing. It wasn't this automated computer controlled deal, right?
Well, it's not computer controlled. It's quasi automated. He uses the NeoGraft, and he uses the NeoGraft.
I don't even know what the NeoGraft is. This isn't some robot arm that sucks the follicles out of your head, is it?
Well, it's something like that. It's not robotic. Basically, it's handheld. It's guided by the surgeon or the technician that's working with it, and it's user dependent, unlike the robotic artists. So you really have to be skilled in order to remove the grafts intact, without transection, without torsion, without any type of compression.
Right.
And Nalts, listen, he wouldn't have gone in for a second surgery if the first one wasn't stellar. He had a great result with the first NeoGraft surgery, and he did the second one with Dr. Bauman as well, and he's psyched. He looks really good. It's a very clean. It's a relatively small session, both of them. He has like a total of about 3,400 grafts, but he had really little downtime. He's at a wedding tonight. He had the surgery on Friday, and he's actually at a wedding tonight. So I mean, he's a happy camper.
That is excellent. If we can't come up, they can't. Obviously, the Holy Grail would be the stuff that they're looking at. That follicular extract stuff that they were cooking up in vitro, that they could do the injections. Remember, we were talking about that made the hair on the mice grow back thicker, created more follicles and thickened the ones that were there. Obviously, that would be the preferable way to...
That's going to happen. It's happening now. I mean, they're getting
obviously that would be preferable than having to do any kind of implantations or transplantations or whatever, but I think the second best option would be if they could take a couple of DHT-resistant follicles out of the back of the head and then grow an exponential number of them, replicate them in vitro, and then use this automated device to implant them. I guess that would be the second best choice, correct?
Well, they're not really, even though this particular device can implant the grafts, the way that they use it in Dr. Bauman's practice is really just for extraction.
Just for extraction. Yeah. So they're doing a traditional manual implantation.
Manual implantation, which honestly I think that even though that this has like a vacuum chute that will implant the grafts, I don't think that's really the best way to go about it. And I think that that's kind of like, you're playing Russian roulette as far as the angle of how the graft is placed and whether or not the graft is going to be buried or basically pushed in too deep, causing compression. It's a very delicate procedure, and I think that it really has to be done by hand.
Well, I'm excited to see that, and the last thing I have to say is that since this is the hair show, it makes you feel kind of good that you're talking about the paint job and the dummying up that we have some of us do to feel comfortable in our own skin when we go out without a cap on. I had an experience in the last few weeks, two experiences that I thought were kind of amusing, and I wanted to relay it to you.
Sure.
Relate it to you. I went in for like a month and a half ago to a GI office to get a GI workup, and getting ready to, the lovely big 5-0 coming up in a few months. I'm thinking it's time I have to get my...
When's your birthday again?
St. Patty's Day.
That's right.
March 17th.
I knew that. I think I called you last year.
Yeah. And so that's the big 5-0. What's that?
Sorry, I had a Jack Spencer didn't call me for my birthday, man.
I don't remember your birthday, dude. I remembered it because it was St. Patrick's Day, and I don't think I called. I think I actually sent him an email.
That's the only reason that you did. The only reason people remember mine, the only reason I remember my own, Joe, is because it's St. Patty's Day.
Dude, it was one of my best friend's birthday. I think it was on the 18th, and I forgot about it. And I was reminded that it was his birthday on the 19th, and I had to write him and wish him a happy belated. This is a kid that I grew up with, Joe. So, just cool you, Jet.
Well, the funny thing is, the baseline colonoscopy, 50, you should get one done. So I'm thinking, oh crap, I gotta get geared up to get a hose stuck up my alimentary canal, which I'm not really all that happy about the idea of that. But
come on, you're a little excited.
No, not really.
All right.
So I'm going to the GI office, and getting a workup and getting ready to proceed in a few months towards getting that done. And there was some country girl nurse's assistant, and she's taking the height and the weight and the vitals and all that. And she looks at me kind of funny, and I've got the full paint job on, right? And as I told you, because of the wall of hair in the front and then the diffuse thinning, behind the wall in the front, going back even, reaching back even almost to the crown now, because it's progressed over the last few years because of the DHEA and and coming off of the ProScar a few years ago when the scare happened, plus stress,
right,
plus aging. So anyway, I dummied it all up, and it looked like the super full head of hair that I can create with the topic, with the couvre and the topic.
Right.
So the girl, this heavy-set country girl nurse's aide, she looks at me, she says, do you know who you look like? And I'm going, oh, crap, here we go again. It's always some Hollywood person. And it's depressing because over the years, as you get older, the Hollywood people to whom I'm compared get progressively uglier over the years.
Yeah.
You started off as Rob Lowe, and now it's like down to Jim Carrey when he was on In Living Color.
I'm Chuck Norris. That's what I get all the time.
Yeah, you're Chuck Norris. Yeah. There you go.
So
I can kind of see that. So she says, are you familiar with Twilight? And I'm going, yeah, the vampire thing. Oh, and she said, you look like Edward. And I'm thinking, I looked at her, I said, what?
I don't know those guys.
Edward Cullen. No, that's the main vampire guy that's in the little vampire romance.
Well, he must be very handsome if he's in Twilight. So.
And all the girls are all swooning. I'm thinking, I don't look anything like this dude. And I said, look, he's, She said, oh well, he's just a kid, but you're like an adult, mature version of him. So I'm thinking, yeah. I said, well, thanks a lot. I didn't think anything about it. So I go to my favorite seafood restaurant 2 nights ago, and there's some really smoking hot waitress there, some college chick. And she starts flirting with me outside the restaurant. She's sitting there on her smartphone, and I walk in. The chick follows me in the restaurant, Spence. So I walk over to the bar area, and I'm talking to the manager and the waitress, getting ready to sit down and order. And she comes up next to me, and she looks at the waitress, she says, how do you know this guy? I said, oh, he comes in here all the time. And she said, you know who he looks like? And I said, oh, crap, here we go again. She says, he looks like Edward Cullen. And, the new Twilight movie's starting tonight. And I'm going, what the hell is going on? And I'm thinking, here I am, damn near 50 years old. They're comparing me to this 21-year-old kid just because I can do a good paint job on my head.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, he's a good-looking kid, and he's extremely famous, and I think that's a great thing, man. You got to take it for what it's worth.
Well, it's really weird because as I'm talking to you on FX, they've got this stupid Twilight movie on. I'm looking at his hair, and I'm thinking, I don't look anything like this guy.
But it doesn't. And, what's funny is if you have a certain resemblance. If you put up a picture of me next to Chuck Norris, you're not going to say that I look like Chuck Norris, but there's a certain thing maybe around the eyes or
right.
Like when people see me in person, I think they think I'm a lot, like I'm kind of bigger looking in person, I think, when you meet me.
Yes, so,
well, thank you, Joe. I don't know if that's a thank you or whatever, but or if that's a compliment or if that's an insult, but whatever.
No, that makes you a very tall person.
I'm just joking. So
very tall mustache.
So it's usually like I look like a lot of people think I look like some sort of like an ex-wrestler or something, or and Chuck Norris looks really like in shape. I actually saw Chuck Norris not too long ago in a local mall here. He lives in the area. He's a little dude in person. He's actually he's probably about 5'8" and maybe 140 pounds, 150 pounds.
You can tell Chuck's true size by watching my favorite action movie of all time, Return of the Dragon, Chuck Norris at the end of the movie fights Bruce Lee in the Roman Coliseum.
Yeah.
And Bruce Lee was 5'7", and Chuck and Bruce look like they're, Chuck was bigger and like heavier set.
Right.
But he and Bruce are like
same
the same
size.
height.
Yeah.
And Bruce was like 5'7", and but it's interesting because he looks so big, and bigger than life
he still looked built. I tell you that. He was small, but he still looked. He was wearing a T-shirt. He still looked really super built. He does wear, in my opinion, as an expert in this field, it appears that he wears a hairpiece.
It looks that way to me too.
But
it looks that way to me too.
But he didn't wear it until later in life.
Right. Another reason I brought this vampire thing is it made me feel good that this guy is like, this kid Pattinson, Robert Pattinson, is known for his freaking amazing hair.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, here I am, I must be doing a good job of dummying this thing up with the makeup because I'm looking at the way he styles his hair. It's like he brushes it forward from the crown and then swoops it up in the front.
Yeah.
And it kind of ties it together, which is what I have to do to create the illusion.
So wait a second. Now, so when people say I look like Chuck Norris, it's because of the hair? I'm just joking.
No, I didn't say that. I was saying that this Pattinson guy, he brushes his hair the same way. I'm thinking, here this guy is known for this huge mop of hair, and here I am, like, going bald, but I can still dummy it up.
And that's why I don't. And that's why I don't get you, man. That's why I don't. You still can dummy it up. You're almost 50 years old. You could still. What do you think women are doing? They're completely dummied up. By the time they're 30 years old, they're completely dummied up. They're not. They're not real.
Yeah,
and even younger than that. But as they get past 30, it's like, the concealer under their eyes and they're coloring their hair. That's not who they really are. So
Chuck didn't stop Chuck Norris, and there he is, 71 years old, and it didn't stop him from going and after he divorced his first wife and going and getting the hot blonde trophy wife who's like young enough to be his daughter.
Oh my God!
The fact that he was wearing a system didn't stop him from
And that's what I'm saying. You're not even wearing a system. Basically, you have enough hair to use makeup to make it look 100% full. That is a godsend, dude. You don't realize how lucky you are. That's all I have to say. Your friend just passed away. And I'm sure he's looking down at you saying, you know what? Get off the fucking couch, stop calling this stupid show, and go get laid.
It's funny you say that because he dogged me out. The last big favor he did me is when I'd gone to a friend's wedding like 3 years ago. We were at a wedding together, and he hooked me up with some really hot girl that had come into town for the wedding. And he hooked me up with this girl, introduced me, and then... First night I ever met the girl, and we went downtown and saw some live music, and this chick was all over me. She was 29 or 30, and she thought I was like her age, and I was 46 at the time.
Yeah.
And later on, my friend's like, "Did you take her home and nail her?" I was like, "Dude, I just met this girl. I've never seen her before." He says, I took her down. He says, "Why the hell did you take her down to that stupid music club?" Of course, this guy was in his 70s. He said, "Why did you take her to that stupid music club, man? Why don't you just take her home and and nail her? She, that's what she wanted." And I'm going, this is so funny. That's just the kind of guy he was,
Well, that's exactly what you wanted. You got to realize that, dude. That's what life's about. It's about, just enjoying these moments and not being stressed over every moment. Trying to find enough moments that are enjoyable to move on. Because life is tough. Just dealing with bills and dealing with business and dealing with illness and family and all the shit that you have to deal with in life. God gave us one thing to really enjoy, and in my view, that's sex. So enjoy it when you can, because there are a lot of guys that wish they were you. Listen, we have to go, man. I want to say goodnight to everybody. And George, I'm so glad that you called in. But I just want to tell Johnny that I was right, dude. Johnny called in and said that he thinks that George might be in a relationship or something because he hasn't called in a few weeks. And I said, you know what? If I was a betting man, and I am, I would say that wasn't the case. No offense, George.
Well, none taken, and as usual, your instincts are correct. But I am looking at changing that.
I know you are, and I'm just trying to push you. I'm just trying to push you into that change.
Well, I'm thinking to myself, if I got a really hot brunette 21-year-old girl basically hitting on me, I'm thinking, what the hell? Why not?
Dude, if you can do that, then just do it. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah,
Just wear protection. Enjoy yourself. And when she says, "What's this on my hands?" be like, "What? What are you talking about?" Just shut the door and say, "Thanks a lot. I'll text you," and that's it. Listen, guys.
I'll just do the Marcus thing and tell her that it's the friggin' makeup came off her face.
That's right. I'd be like, "I don't know what the hell you're talking about," and then go out for breakfast. All right, guys. Listen, thanks so much, Joe. You hung up, man. I don't know why you hung up. I guess you got disconnected. George, man, thanks a lot for calling. Johnny Ohio, Joe Tronic, and everyone else who called in tonight. Thank you so much for hanging out, Dr. Bauman. I don't know if you're still watching, but I will give you a call during the week. And thank you again for everything on Friday. It was a great experience. It was a live YouTube surgery. Thousands. I don't even know how many. I know we had like 68,000 people watching through our resources. We haven't gotten the YouTube numbers yet. It may be double what we've ever done as far as a live event. All I can say is that we've received more emails after last Friday's event than I ever received from any other event. It was amazing. So I want to thank Dr. Bauman and Kevin Nalts for that. You can view the live YouTube event on thebaldtruth.com right now. You can check that out. And let's see. I think Joe just called in, so let me say goodnight to Joe. Joe, is that you?
Yeah, so I wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. I got inadvertently cut off.
All right, man. I appreciate that. I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving as well. Joe, thanks so much. And I'll be back on
Thanks, Joe.
Sunday night for the broadcast, so don't worry. I don't know if we're doing a show on Friday with the guys from Queens. I think we are, but you can look out for that. I want to thank the GFQ Network for syndicating this broadcast. We are syndicated through the GFQ Network on resources like iTunes and Stitcher Radio and Ustream.com and JustinTV.com. You can check out guysfromqueens.com or GFQLive.tv if you ever want to watch the GFQ Network live and get involved with their IRC chat and interact with those guys. Great bunch of guys, great programming. I want to thank them for picking up the Bald Truth. I got to get out of here. I don't know when Yvette's coming back, but I got to give her a call. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. And until next time, be strong and God bless.
I'd like to thank all of my guests today. They did a swell job in showing us how easy it is so that we can really do it. If I can do it, they can do it, you can do it. But bye for now.